if Jerry Jones were to call you and say, Moose, what should I do about my quarterback situation? What would you suggest?
It's a tough one. I think, the big thing is you've got such a big number with Tony's contract as your backup quarterback that it limits you from doing the things that you need to do in free agency. So I think a decision has to be made. And now just how do you make that decision? How does the organization make that decision that not only best suits them, but best suits Tony? Because I think that there's definitely a relationship between the Dallas Cowboys and Tony Romo and what he's meant to them for their franchise, that they want to make sure he lands in an opportunity that gives him a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. And if you look around the NFL, I think that there's a couple of really good opportunities there that should work for both sides. But there's some other things that you have to put in on Tony's personal side. He has just finished completing a nice house here in the Dallas area. He has a young family. They just added number 2, I think, within the last year and a half. So there's some things in your personal life that you have to take into consideration that maybe takes a Jacksonville Jaguar team, out of that discussion, that maybe even potentially takes a Denver Bronco team out of that discussion. And maybe that brings the Houston Texans to the forefront of the discussion. It's a short flight. It's an easy trip back and forth between Dallas and Houston to see the family, to spend time with your kids. And you've got a great opportunity.
Right. It's in a dome as well. I mean, dome helps aging quarterbacks, the ideal conditions.
Number one defense.
Right. Is there any way, I guess the two things are, one, is there any way to keep them both?
If there is any way to keep them both, the organization will figure out a way to do that. I'm not sure what the ramifications are of a guy taking a pay cut. But the other thing is we're talking about Tony as the backup quarterback taking a pay cut to allow both quarterbacks to stay there. I don't think that's what Tony Romo sees in his future. I think he still feels he's a top-level quarterback in the NFL. He wants to get out and compete for a championship.
Okay,
I don't think he's going to be happy playing backup quarterback. So I think that's what's going to drive this whole decision to maybe have to go to another team.
Would you agree with me, just again, that Dak has a lot more value on the open market, not just because of his age and he hasn't been injured, but because you can't change his contract, right? The trade market. Like Dak has substantially more market value in the trade market, correct?
I would think so, because you've got the hesitation of the injury history of Tony. You've got the huge cap number coming in. There's some uncertainties there and some financial challenges that would make a rookie contract, fourth-round rookie contract, much more enviable to get. But there's no – I do not see that scenario happening. Okay. I really don't. I think what you're going to see with the Dallas Cowboys is something similar to what we saw with the Seattle Seahawks. You've got a window right now with 2 key pieces in place for your offense playing rookie contracts, one of them a fourth-round contract. So the fact that Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott for the next 4 and 5 years will be a low cap number, they can address issues in other areas on the team. So I don't think you'd ever forfeit that opportunity, number one, from a financial standpoint moving forward, and number two, just what he's meant to the organization, how he really was kind of a shot in the arm for this locker room, for this team. I mean, he and Ezekiel really kind of brought this team together, added a youthful shot of energy. There's a lot of intangibles that were going on that I don't think a lot of people were aware of. Everybody sees production and performance, but there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes that make these two guys pretty valuable.